Hey everybody, this is Sheets, and we're going to be going over the MMA card for this Saturday. And the unfortunate thing is that there's just kind of a free square, which you're going to have to play. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I do feel as though there are some places that we can get different here. One of the things that I have become pretty good at within the past year doing these analyses is finding kind of fights that the industry is sure one thing is going to happen and not accepting that necessarily. Maybe there is something to being able to see some of these fights and get kind of a sense for what types of guys people like to play, and then interlaying the numbers on top of that. So we've had some really, really good results over the past, 4 slates or so, both from a analysis and DFS perspective, as well as kind of a betting perspective. We had a couple of pretty good picks that if you wanted to dive into the sports betting realm, you could have done pretty well. So let's see if we can't keep that up a little bit. Maybe we'll come up with some non-DFS related plays as we go through this. But first of all, let's just take care of the free square first. So Rafael dos Anjos was supposed to fight somebody else, and he was priced at as if he were basically a 180 underdog. Turns out that he got rescheduled with Renato Moicano, and he is now a minus 160 favorite. And he is still obviously priced at 7,200. So that is, as we like to say, a kind of a mathematical, theoretical lock. You just can't avoid that. And if that wasn't bad enough, he's also a 5-round fight. So as much as the algorithm is broken from a pricing perspective, it's also broken, as always, with respect to the 5-round situation. So unfortunately, you're going to have to play him. Yes, he's going to be really, really popular. And if you find a way to not play him and get away with it, you're certainly going to be well ahead of the field. But I have, in my limited time, I guess, playing MMA DFS, I've found that fading those situations is just a really bad idea. I feel that when the math stacks up that high, that even when these things become 65% owned, they're going to be, that's too little. I mean, I as a matter of fact, I believe that in the 555s, I wouldn't say he's 100% owned, but he could be pretty close. I think in the big cash lineups, he's literally going to be 100% owned. You could actually, what you could do, if you want to make money, you'll go look at the cash builds and see who doesn't have him, so that you'll know who's just a terrible cash player. You just have to play him. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Now, the other thing is that the other guy in the fight is also, I mean, he's fairly priced from a, for sort of 3-round fight, because he's 7,200, minus 180, plus 160, 170. But give him 5 rounds to work with in a fight, a fight that rates to, it's like pick him to make it the distance. So this thing's going to go the distance. Even the underdog is going to probably garner enough points to make it worth it. So you could, this is what I'm going to say. Any lineup that does not have Dos Anjos is going to have Moicano, because that's the only way that Dos Anjos is out of the optimal, honestly, is if he loses, right? And even if he loses, he could still, not want to say be the optimal, but this is, so he's going to lose what? Decent amount of the time, right about 35% of the time. So if that's the case, then those times you're going to want to have the 7,200 guy from the 5-round fight. So, let's take care of that right away. Next, let's go through again fight by fight and see if we can't find anything else. There's no other real price equity plays that you can point to. So what we're then going to be looking for are, fighters with good inside the distance props, hopefully get that finishing upside, and also fighters with good grappling upside, where if in fact they do win, it's going to be because they get takedowns, and those are very, very beneficial to DraftKings scoring. And I'm sorry if this is kind of a repeat for all the people that have seen this before, but I think it's important to continue to plug the fundamentals for the people that are just coming in, and just so that we don't stray from them. and we keep a process going that we can kind of repeat. Okay. And as you'll see, we'll go through some of these fights. I do have a couple of opinions on some of these guys. So let's just start, I guess, with Olazechuk, and I think that's the way you pronounce his name, against Jacoby. And let's just take a look at the inside the distance prop here, because 2-1 favorite seems to be priced pretty fairly, and it looks as though the fight doesn't go to a decision, -160. I guess that's not the worst in the world. So you want to include this fight as a fight to kind of target? Yeah, you could do that. I think you're going to get a little better fights down the road. But, first fight of the night, there's always, the possibility that goes overlooked. So, well, we'll get to another fight that is going to be overlooked in a second. But so you can play both sides of this fight. I really have no opinion. Neither of these guys are particularly, grappling heavy. So you're just kind of hoping that one of them gets finished, and it rates the finish about half the time. So yeah, you can play these guys. I have no problem with you playing either of these guys. I have no real lean one way or the other. So yeah, Tavante Smith against Rudolph Klein. Now, what's interesting about this fight is this was the last one that was added to the slate. It was added to the fight card, but then it was very, very late added to the DraftKings slate. So in a situation like this, you usually have a case where a fight is under analyzed a little bit. So it's possible that this fight is going to be a little under-owned on both sides of the board. That's something to consider. Now let's take a look at the fight doesn't go to decision line. See, this is a much stronger fight inside the distance prop than the last one. And so given the fact that it's the late addition, I think this fight's going to be kind of a sneaky fight to key here. Neither of them have particularly great grappling upside. So you are just kind of rooting for the knockout. But according to the inside the distance prop, I mean, there's a pretty decent chance that happens. And if you look at the pricing, between 8,500 and 7,500, I think this is really, I think this is a better fight to go after than the Jacoby Olazechuk fight. So I would definitely support either of these guys, Smith or Klein. I have no real lean. I guess I would say Klein as a live underdog, just because some of the other underdogs we're going to get to, I'm going to get some really popular underdogs, I think, at least the way the industry is describing them. So maybe Klein, because Klein, I'm hearing a lot of talk that he was prospect, and because of his last fight, they're just kind of giving up on him. I'm not so sure that's 100% accurate. So I would go probably a little more Klein than Smith, just because of ownership, I guess, relative to their chances to win, right? So I would say maybe 50-50, Klein versus Smith. So the next fight, I thought I was going to be real sneaky with this one, but apparently the industry is kind of sort of agreeing with me. This Ulanbekov, he's not good. Okay, like you're getting a guy who is riding off that that Russian Dagestani name. They all sound like great fighters, right? And he's got a good record, but if you do a little bit of a deeper dive, I mean, the guys he fights are not that great. In his last fight, he came off as like 100-1 favorite. He was 9,400, and he won a freaking split decision. I mean, I don't want that. I don't want a guy that comes in 9,400 to get a split decision. I'm just really not interested in that type of guy. He does have a good. This is back in 2020. He beat Bruno Silva. It was before Bruno Silva became even better. So I don't know. I guess that's an okay win. And then the other guy he beat was another kind of like fraudulent Russian guy. Forget his name. It's not on this list here, but that other guy that I'm referring to, not Ulanbekov, something sounds like that. He was another guy who won like a very, very fishy split decision as a big favorite. So I think this whole line of kind of like not the bottom of the barrel of these these Russian geniuses, I'm fading this completely. As a matter of fact, Tim Elliott is not the worst underdog in the world. I mean, he's been around the block. He's seen it all. He's got a really good corner in James Krause. You always like to play him, guys in his gym, but he could do some chain takedowns himself. So either he's going to get takedowns, or he at least knows what it takes to stop them. So I'm not going to play any of this other guy. 9K. If I get to some Tim Elliott, again, I'm not a particular fan of him, and I don't like the fact that his road to victory is a road which he really isn't at the advantage. You know, I think the other guy who went back up is probably a better grappler. And if that's the case, I mean, Elliott might not have the greatest win condition, but at the very least, I don't think that the 9K guy is going to pay off his price tag. So I'm fading him completely. The 7,200 Elliott, I probably will end up with a little bit of him. I had him in his last fight against Nicolau at 7,700, and he was competitive. I mean, he never really had a chance to win. I will say that. Because I mean, I was rooting for him. I was looking for any chance he had. He was always behind. He did put up an okay score, 44 fantasy points in a loss. It's not the end of the world. He did get one takedown in that, 2 minutes, 28 seconds of control time. So yeah, I do think he's kind of live. But the most important point is that, if you have money to spend, you don't want to spend it on the night on him. All right, so this next one, this is gonna be another one that's probably not gonna be the greatest idea, but you have Nurmagomedov, who is supposedly the nuts, okay, against Brian Kelleher, and you have a guy who's at 9,600, and they're really touting this guy as like the next champion in the next couple of years. So he's a tough, it's a tough fade. You typically with guys like this, they just come and they showcase and they just kind of do their thing. But I have to tell you, this Brian Kelleher is kind of an animal. Like he's been around. He's had 24 wins. He fights, some low-level guys, some higher-level guys. And one thing about him is that he's got the sneaky guillotine that he's caught people in that have tried for takedowns and weren't paying attention. And I have to tell you that at 6,600, I'm just not going to want to know for myself if he gets that guillotine and wins at 6,600 if I don't have some of it. So I think that he's live here. I do. Again, there's a lot of hype behind this Nurmagomedov guy. I'm sure he's the best. But 9,600 or whatever, it's a tough price. It really, really is. Even if he just ragdolls him and scores 100 points, how good is that? It might be good, but I think, and I've made this mistake before. I made the same comment about I didn't play 100% of Chimaev when he was supposed to win he scored 120 fantasy points. But I don't know about this one. I just have this feeling that that Kelleher is live. I just do. And I will have some Nurmagomedov, but I will say this: if I do have him, I'm not going to have him with some of the other chalk, which we're going to get to. So that's that. All right, Agapova Moroz. So this was a real interesting one. So Agapova lost in 2020 to Shayna Dobson, and that was kind of like known throughout the industry as just one of the worst losses you could have. She was like 90. She was a huge favorite, like 10-1, and just had nothing to offer. Then she like disappeared off the face of the earth for like a year. And if you go and you look back at some of the videos previewing her fight against Sabina Mazo, you'll hear all of this talk about her. She basically went psycho, and she was in like almost like a rehab center for mental illness, and then she was like kind of disappeared on the streets, and nobody could find her, and people were literally concerned. And one of the reasons I almost didn't play that fight is because I thought she might not even show up, and you get a walkover result, things like that. And everybody was playing Sabina Mazo as at 8,300, and I have to tell you, Agapova kicked her ass. Okay, she got the sub in the third round, but within 5 seconds of that fight, you knew that she was the nuts. And so you fast forward to now you have her at 8,900, 8,800. That's a little different, and she's in another fight with somebody who this is another kind of like almost a narrative fight. Like you hear this stuff like these guys really don't like each other, and these women apparently really hate each other. But okay, fine. They're gonna probably try to beat each other's brains in anyway. Okay, what's interesting is you see Marina Moroz, she scored 111 fantasy points in the decision. And then, that means that she's got a lot of volume. So between the two of these ladies, they're going to be coming after each other. And I want to play this fight. Okay. If I bet you if you look at the inside the distance prop, it's probably kind of poor, because all ladies fights are. I mean, it's minus 130, not the end of the world. No, actually, it's about a pick. So it's tough, but with the volume, and I did see how aggressive Agapova can be. I think this is going to be maybe a sneaky fight for me, and I'll probably grab both sides of this. I think it's going to be low owned, and I don't know. I kind of want some of this. So here's another one. This one is going to be the death of me, but this is, let's just look at the numbers. So Negar Morano and Shuko. I've seen this guy fight a couple of times now, the Shuko. And first we look at the inside the distance prop. It's a minus 215. So it's a minus 215 inside the distance prop. And you know who's playing this fight out of the DFS community? Nobody. I've watched all of the content, at least to this point, and all I'm getting is that its fight's going to be tricky. This fight's kind of a weird one. You see that Shuko, he doesn't do anything. If anything, maybe you like Negrano or whatever it is. I don't know, man. I'm going to be on this, and I'll tell you this: I'm going to be on the Shuko. I mean, people played this guy like twice in a row, and both times he really didn't perform, but he did get the knockouts. You know what I mean? Like one time he was getting out grappled for 2 rounds. Then he decided, okay, I'll pull this guy off me and knock him out. And then I think in the fight before that, it was somewhat similar. Let's pull this up again. You get where is this? Shuko. The Ulberg fight. So the Ulberg fight, he was getting beat up, and then he just came around and just knocked the guy out. Problem is, in his last fight, he just got tattooed, and it was weird because it looks like he got like hit in like the elbow or something like that. It was just a real funny type of knockout that he got beat. So I don't know, man. For me, I'm in. I'll take a shot at this guy. I mean, it wasn't too long ago that everybody was playing this guy as he was a live underdog apparently against Ulberg, and he got the freaking job done. Marquez, he was just kind of like smothered. It didn't seem like he was too interested in getting taken down. And then he just ended up turning it around in the third round and just KO'd him. And if you could throw that last fight out, I mean, I'd rather play him than this guy. I mean, this guy beat, like, he won a decision against Kimura. This was good. I mean, it was 6,900, good result. And then he beat Villanueva, who's basically terrible. He's 9,100. I don't know, man. I'll what is this Safarov decision? I don't even know what this is. 3-round fight. He had 11 significant strikes. Is that possible? I mean, what is that? I don't know. So I don't know. That's good enough for me. I'm probably going to be pretty heavy on the. But I'll tell you this fight in general is going to be pretty underowned for a fight that has a really, really good inside the distance prop. So I don't know, man. That's where I am. Rodriguez against Xiaonan. I think I'm going to be off of this fight. Let's just take a look at the odds here. You have an inside the distance prop that's very poor, going to decision. No takedown upside from either of them. It's not for me. This next fight, this is not going to be ignored. People are going to play this one, and I think for good reason. But look at this. This has an inside the distance prop of minus 200, which is no different than the one I just described in Juco fight. And more people are going to be on this fight, and I don't know why. I guess because they've seen Malarkey, and Malarkey's a tough dude. He's got a couple of good results, and he's got volume. You get the sense that he could put up fantasy points. Jalen Turner, he's got a low gas tank, which means that that's probably going to finish in the first couple of rounds. So I can see that this fight is going to be one that you want to target. So like, here's an example. Like if I'm going to play Nurmagomedov in that early one, that big chalk there, I'll probably avoid the Turner Malarkey fight because this one I think is going to be pretty popular. But in my main builds or whatever, I will attack this fight just because the numbers kind of dictate that. I have no real preference between the two of them, but it is a good It is a good DFS fight. Spivak Hardy. All right, this is another one. This is a very strong inside the distance prop. And each of these fighters have a very clear win condition. You have Spivak, who really needs to take the fight to the mat to win. And it's very likely that he does. And so his scoring is going to be very strong when he wins. Greg Hardy needs to avoid getting taken to the mat. More important, he would like to get that first round knockout. So, or at least into the second round. So he's going to be going for that. That's his win condition. So both of these guys have really strong DFS win conditions. So I think this is a fight you want to target as well. I have no real opinion except to say that I have seen, several content videos and all this stuff. And Greg Hardy is just everybody's favorite. Don't know exactly why. Why is he any better than Klein, or I don't know, Negramanu? It's the same, So if he ends up being too high owned, again, I wouldn't pair him with say the Nurmagomedov side. All right, Oliveira against Kevin Holland, inside the distance prop. Pretty good, not great, but it's all coming on the Kevin Holland side, which makes sense to me. I'm not playing any of the Cowboy Oliveira side. If anything, I will play Kevin Holland. And that's actually an interesting pivot. So you play Kevin Holland as opposed to, say, Nurmagomedov, for example. I mean, it's scary because Nurmagomedov's a 7-1 favorite, right? But it's possible that he doesn't score all that great. Remember, at 9,600, you need 100 at minimum. And Holland, he's a similar price. I don't know. Again, I don't know if Holland's such a great play either now that I'm thinking about this. He's a minus 300, and he is inside the distance about minus 200. His price is 9,100. I mean, he's better. Look, he's better than? He's better than this clown. That clown. The clown will knock me out in one punch, but he's better than Ulanbekov. That I will say. At the same price. Okay, so Holland, I guess, is in the player pool, but maybe he's not that great. Okay, Barboza, Mitchell. Mitchell's got to be really chalky. He just has to be. I mean, he's 8,300. He's got all the takedown upside. He's going to be going after Barboza, who's a little older. Barboza's he's a kicking expert. So he's going to have to try to find a way to keep Mitchell off him. And he's going to try with the kicking. But it's kind of tough to fade Mitchell in this spot. He's got the win condition. I don't know the variation where Barboza knocks out Mitchell. I mean, it's possible. But let's take a look at the inside the distance prop. Maybe I am overlaying my own thoughts a little bit more than I should be. But fight doesn't go to decision. All right, minus 150. It's okay. Will I have any of Barboza? I don't know. I don't think I could do it. But Mitchell, again, very, very strong play. Moicano, Dos Santos, we talked about. And in the main event, I'm not playing Masvidal. I think Colby's probably a lock here. I mean, he's going to provide all the pressure. He's going to provide all the power. I would say all the power. I mean, Jorge Masvidal's got plenty of power. But I don't think that he can win this fight going backwards. I think that's what's going to happen. I think that Colby Covington's going to just go after him, take him down. I was actually at the fight. Not that it matters, but when he fought Usman, and that was tough. I mean, Usman's tough. I mean, he's a tough dude. And Colby Covington fought him, I wouldn't say evenly. I mean, look, I hear talk that people thought he won. He did not win. Usman won, but Colby Covington fought hard. And all I can say is that Masvidal was totally outclassed by Usman. And I know it doesn't work that way necessarily, but the fact is he's a 3-1 favorite. He's got 5 rounds to work with. He's got all kinds of takedowns. I mean, I think that he's, I don't know how much Masvidal I'm going to have. So for me, I mean, I would much rather have Covington than Nurmagomedov, I guess. So I went through a lot of guys that I like a lot of fights that I like. So you are going to have to prioritize in some way, but I do think that one thing you could do is maybe not play so much Urmagomedov, because you could get finishes from these mid-range guys. You could get finishes from that. For example, the Malarkey fight. You would get finishes from the Njoku fight. You would get finish. Well, you take the free square of the Dos Anjos. You would get a finish, maybe even from the Mitchell fight. So you can get finishes from these mid-range fights and if you this way, you don't have to play the big time underdogs. When you play the $9,500 guy, you're forced to take shots at guys like Tim Elliott and things like that. And not that Tim Elliott's necessarily a bad play, but you get 2 finishes out of the 8,300s, then you put yourself a lot of pressure with these 9,500 X builds to kind of keep up with that. And I think that there are enough $8,300, $8,400 fighters that could get finishes that makes that kind of build kind of worth doing. I mean, you already have the 7,300 guy from Dos Anjos, right? So if you play Nurmagomedov, you probably have to take one other one. So it's going to be you're going to probably play Tim Elliott, or you're going to probably play what's his name, Numeriano, or Hardy's going to be played a lot. So if you want leverage, I mean, play people play Spivak too, but I think Spivak's going to be decent leverage off of Hardy. I think that I'm trying to think now if maybe I'm too quick to dismiss Oba Bekov only because his freaking leverage against what could be a popular. No, he's not. Nobody's playing. All right, forget it. So I didn't want to stray too much in that. So again, mid-range, lots of good options. Pick your favorites, and I would go with that. Good luck, everybody. Should be a really, really fun card.